program. It's time to review the headline stories together. Remember, you're very much a part of the conversation on our social media platforms and our online stream on YouTube. Just keep it civil, no name calling or inciting comments when you look to make your points.
Well, joining us at this moment, we have Comrade Richard Romanus, a public affairs analyst and a friend of the station who loves to lend his thoughts to matters of national interest. A very good morning to you, Comrade. It's wonderful to have you join us all morning night.
Thank you.
Now, to begin with, his comments made at the recent ministerial briefing where the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Alhaji Idris, says that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu deserves the credit for the recent crash in prices as it concerns the fuel pump price and certain commodities in the market. What do you make of his statement?
Well, I think I would also align myself with the Minister for Communication. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I do not think that anybody, let alone the president, would want to deliberately cause his people, or his fellow countrymen and women hardship. I have always believed that whatsoever policies that came up, were all geared towards the betterment of all of us. And it's also a thing of joy, that gradually we are seeing that those policies, just like they have continually told us right from the inception, that things will gradually. I think that is what is basically coming to fore. And for me, they say the buck always stops at the table of the buck stops at the table of the president. And so if that is what is happening now, I mean, no other person deserves that credit other than Mr. President.
Now, we might not be able to go into in-depth details with regards to some of these policies that the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, had cited that is yielding results in the country. But there was a report in our news bulletin just a couple of minutes ago where we saw people lamenting that especially during this holy month of Ramadan, a lot of food prices had skyrocketed, and that beyond just Ramadan, they were thinking that at least some of the policies that the president had put in place to ensure that the prices of food items and commodities come down would also sort of help out. But in this case, the prices of food on a normal day has not gone down, and now with the Ramadan setting in, it has also skyrocketed. So it's like double jeopardy.
Again, I think that all of this is a work in progress. And I do not think that whatsoever that is being put in place, by the government, is going to just automatically just kick off. For me, what is happening, the prices of commodities, and their exorbitant nature, for me it's not even surprising, because usually, even as a Christian, you discover that during our holidays,
Christmas,
exactly, it's usually the case, and most times you won't even blame or put these blames on the government. You also put the blames on even the business people,
retailers themselves.
The retailers themselves, who try to most times use this opportunity, to make sales and then possibly make profit. But by and large, I also think that with time things would normalize.
Now, beyond food, the minister had mentioned, fuel prices in the country coming down, but we all know that this crash or subtle crash in fuel prices cannot be entirely attributed to the federal government or even NNPCL. We would largely be thankful and attribute this move to the Dangote refinery. And also recently we saw local oil marketers in the country agitating and protesting over the fact that they would rather import, diesel and petroleum products rather than purchasing from Dangote refinery, which is cheaper, by the way. So in all of this situation, should we really believe that the drop in oil prices is due to the federal government's intervention?
Again, I want to align myself with you.
Yeah.
You know, I've always believed in, I've always known that when there is competition, you know, I mean, that whole monopoly is no longer there. You know, and for me, all thanks, for me particularly, I think that Dangote deserves more of the credit. You know, and we should even encourage more of Dangote's likes. You know, to invest, you know, in the oil and gas industry, you know, because for me that way all of this monopoly by whoever,
by NNPCL. Well, let's call a spade a spade. The monopoly is mainly orchestrated by the NNPC Limited, as well as local oil marketers in the country who have been benefiting largely
from all of that.
Some of these illegalities as we know it. And I like the fact that the president had mentioned something about that in the last couple of years, Nigeria has been spending via loopholes, monies that could go, you know, for 50 generations to come. And these are some of the issues that the presidency continues to face. These are some of the issues that Nigerians continue to bear the major brunt of.
Yeah, true. So, like I said, in as much as we want to put the entire blames on the NNPCL, I also think that the coming of Dangote, you know, has saved us from a whole lot, you know, and I will continue to insist that let's continue to encourage more investors, you know, in that sector, you know. That way, that's monopoly, you know, will continue to, you know, be brushed aside.
Another angle to this conversation is the argument some people are having that prices have not necessarily dropped. It's just owing to the new methodology that the NBS is using in rebasing GDP and consumer price index. That if you check the prices of items in the market vis-a-vis the current inflation rates and the purchasing power parity of Nigeria, you cannot say that prices have entirely dropped. It's just that the rebasing now is pegging the prices relative to the months on the review.
I don't think so too. I don't think so because for me, I like to give people their credit. I like to say things the way they are. You know, I mean, before this time, we've seen we bought fuel for more than 1,000 naira. You know, and gradually we are seeing fuel. I mean, the last time I bought was about 800 and something or so, and all of that. You know,
below 900.
Yeah, below 900. And for me, and this has been so for quite some time.
But that's for the PMS. If you talk about food prices like a bag of rice, it's still considerably at 100,000 naira. It hasn't shifted from where it was. It has rather even increased from what it was at the month of December. So when you do the price variations away from PMS in the market, it almost seems as though the prices have stayed same despite this comments coming from the information minister.
Again, don't you also think that we are just in the month of March? Just 2 months behind 2024 and all of that. Don't you also think that most of the things people are saying now could be old stock, depending on depending on how much the items that are being sold were bought? I mean, you cannot get an item for 100K and more, and then come back. You as a businessman, you want to make profit.
Well, Comrade Richard, it's not news. We all know how the typical Nigerian market structure works, where you know, when these retailers or even wholesalers purchase certain products at a certain amount that is considered high, and even by the time the prices drop and the old stock that they have must have been exhausted and they have probably bought, you know, new stock, they will still insist that, oh, they can't sell at this low price because what they have in their store is the old stock, which is entirely a lie. But we never can tell because we were not part of the process. That has been the tradition.
That is the Nigerian factor for it.
But even in this practice, you find commercial cab drivers, bus drivers, despite this decline in even pump price of fuel, still retaining the rates that they had when fuel was bought for over 1,000 naira per litre.
That is the Nigerian factor, like I said. We sometimes are our own problem. We like to take advantage of certain issues, certain events, and all of that. And for me, it is high time Nigerians we start being there for one another. The cabman, the man driving taxi on the road, whoever is doing any business must also know and recognize the fact that he is not the only one or she is not the only one, passing through a lot in this country. We are all in this together, And so the only way, if there is anything we cannot do, to ease the burden on one another, I mean, that is for me the best way to go.
Now, Comrade Richard, let me just get your take, one last take on this particular issue before we move on to yet another issue, but still staying around the presidency. One of the comments coming in from a certain minister is the fact that posterity will judge President Bola Ahmed Tinubu fairly. Do you think so? It's a difficult one.
No, well, coming from the minister, you may not agree with him because I mean he is a principal participant, in the government.
But coming from you, will posterity judge the president fairly?
Well, I think that I would answer this question maybe towards after the president's second year anniversary.
From his antecedents, from inception of his administration up until this point.
Sometimes things actually get tough before they get a bit flexible and easy.
That's what the president has always been saying.
Yes. For me, I also believe, I believe so too. The president has, since his inception, since he came into office, has embarked on some very bold, ambitious reforms. And especially the removal of fuel subsidy. We've always been told that that has been one of those things that has been pressing our necks as a country. And he came and he said it was gone. It was gone. Yes, that singular act, caused a whole lot of hardship, and it's still causing to Nigerians. Yeah. I want to believe that in no distant time, Nigerians will begin to see the whole wisdom, in that
practicable results of the
removal of fuel subsidy, and even some other policies of government that the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has brought on board since inception. Yeah.
And then moving on to the next issue in the news is an issue that has received some unfair bias in the way it's been treated, owing to the fact that the person making the comment had his fair share in ruling Nigeria as a former president. Chief Olusegun Obasanjo yesterday was critical of his assessment of the Lagos-Calabar coastal highway. And he also has said if you rate the fraud index in the Buhari administration with the current administration, they might be on the same scale. Now, the presidency replying this morning has said that he is in no position to make such comments. And it's almost as if it's a trade of words again between a former president and his assessment of the incumbent. What do you make of comments made by Chief Olusegun Obasanjo?
Well, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo will continue to be Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. Of course, you don't expect a former head of state, then former president, democratically elected president, to mince words, when it comes to talking about Nigeria. I'm sure that even the presidency knows that the man would always be entitled, to his opinions and all of that. For me, I don't think that that project,
Lagos-Calabar.
if it is a project that is going to benefit, if it is even realizable, if it's going to be achieved.
Now, the former president's concern is the amount of money that the project is going to, gulp up.
Yeah.
15 trillion naira is quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, he had cited that there were some certain irregularities surrounding the project, and that it was more of a personal,
patronage.
exactly, a patronage, and more like it's my turn to chop.
Yeah.
Especially from the Minister of Works, Engineer Dave Umahi, who has been, in recent times, especially during his time as governor, has been accused of awarding contracts to companies that he has stakes in.
Again, I agree. The people who are expressing all of these concerns, most of them are also correct. I've also heard people talk about the company this job was also awarded to, who everybody knows this Chagori. Yeah, the Chagoris of
who is also a friend to Dave Umahi.
Who is also not even a friend to
the
president. I think that is where people's Nigerians' concern majorly is. But like I said, for me, this project, yes, it's grabbing a whole lot of money. Yes, it's an ambitious project. For me, I would rather say that let the project come to life. No matter what it is. If the project comes to life, I'm sure it's going to save us a whole lot.
So some of the states are along the coastal plains, much like Cross River State. I saw reactions coming in from there on social media. People say, when people talk about legacy projects, much like the Spaghetti Highway, it almost brings some form of nostalgia and failed promises in the region. How different do you think people from this part of the coast who have had promises on even the East-West Road, which is non-functional, would feel, should this road not be completed?
Again, I want to align myself with the people who believe that the road will come to life. Of course, yes, we've had Spaghetti Flyover, we've had Super Highway by the former governor of Cross River, Professor Ben Ayadi. For that case, in that case, I just want to believe that the former governor of Cross River State was a very ambitious man who had all the ideas. I think that the problem he had, was maybe the cash to finance these ideas, to push these ideas. And I mean, coming from a state like Cross River,
but why would the issue of cash be a problem for a state governor for certain projects?
Well, for a state like Cross River, cash is definitely going to be.
There are so many options to explore, including foreign direct investments, foreign loans, and even federal government loans. The federal government could partner with the state government in order to execute certain projects.
Well, again,
so are we looking at a situation of lack of funding or a situation of lack of ambition?
Well, again, while I don't want to dwell on that, I want to believe that a man came up with an idea, came up with something that he thinks was going to be good for his people or for Nigerians, And I'm sure that before he came up with all of this, he knew what the benefits were going to be, and all of that. If in an event where he finishes his term or his tenure and couldn't achieve all of this, there must have been something wrong that may have led to all of this, But for me, I want to believe that it is not the Calabar, the Lagos-Calabar coastal highway.
Yeah.
It's not going to be one of those white elephant projects. I want to believe that for President Tinubu, I think that road basically is some sort of a legacy project, and President Tinubu and even the Minister David Umahi, who has, I have seen a couple of criticisms here and there. He has been at the receiving end so long as that project is concerned. And I want to believe that those criticisms will spur him up, to see that project see the light of day.
Now, are these criticisms coming in from the angle of lack of support for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration or lack of trust for the Minister of Works, Engineer Dave Umahi, considering his antecedents as governor of Ebonyi State?
Well, it is never an issue of lack of trust on governor of former governor of Ebonyi State. If there is anything, I think that with his antecedents, with some of the bold projects, some of the bold initiatives he carried out in Ebonyi State, any right-thinking Nigerian, would want to give David Umahi a chance. I think basically it's a lack of trust to the government generally. Nigerians still do not think that Nigerians still do not trust certain people in the government, certain projects, and all of that. And for me, I would continue to insist that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the president. By May 29, it's going to be 2 years in office. Nigerians, I think it is high time we give him that benefit of doubt.
Well, how about the fraud index rating comment by the former president, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, where he said that by the end of Tinubu's tenure, or at some point, the fraud index rating of this current administration would tower higher above the fraud index rating of the former administration of President Muhammadu Buhari?
Well, like I said, the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, has always been known from firing from all cylinders. That is his opinion. That is his take. Let's see if what he has said or his prophecy is going to come to pass.
Is this administration corrupt?
big question. The administration may not be corrupt, but there are corrupt people in the administration.
So that makes it corrupt?
If there are corrupt people in the administration, would you say that makes it corrupt?
Well, you're throwing back my question at me right now.
Yes, I am. For me, I believe that I just think that because there are certain bad eggs, in a system, doesn't make the entire system bad. That is why I said, yes, there are corrupt people in the administration. There are certain people that are seen to be corrupt in the administration, but I don't think that is not enough, to.
I know we're not delving into politics, but one last comment before we move on. 2027 is ahead of the, just around the corner, and ahead of the general elections and a possible bid for a re-election by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. With all the policies that we're seeing and, the strides that the president has achieved and otherwise, that some of his opponents or, opposition leaders might share different opinions on. Do you think that the president ahead of 2027 stands a chance for a re-election?
Again, I think that maybe between now and maybe sometime next year, we would begin to see whether he stands a chance to win re-election or not. Yes, we've started seeing defections, here and there. The latest being the defection of former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai.
Who tried to drag the former president Muhammadu Buhari into it.
Exactly, who tried to drag former President Buhari into it, But again, I still do not see El-Rufai being able to, the likes of El-Rufai, being able to stop. If it is about only the likes of El-Rufai stopping Tinubu, I really doubt it.
But it's not just El-Rufai in this case now, Bito, is it? It's not just El-Rufai.
Yes, I know.
We have the former Vice President, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. We have Labour Party's Peter Obi. We have, Alhaji Rabiu Konkoso in the picture. And of course, Malam Nasir El-Rufai consulting with so many people. And much recently, I saw Major Hamza Al-Mustafa meeting with former Vice President Atiku.
But in those same states, if we are to go by that analogy, in Adamawa State, what's the relationship between Atiku Abubakar and his governor, Finitri?
Well, I see you guys have already touched on subject number 8, and we have little less than 10 minutes to wrap up on our review segment. Two stories that have drawn different reactions, one a national story in Rivers, the other now gaining international attention with the appearance of the suspended Senator Natasha at the IPU the Senate deliberated on the issue yesterday, and they said that she is misrepresenting the facts on the international scene. Her suspension was not because of the case she submitted, but for the disobedience to the rules that the Senate is governed by. The Senate, in its deliberation, also passed a vote of confidence on the leadership style of the Senate President, Senator Akpabio. What do you make of this issue?
Well, at first, I had thought that the brouhaha between Senator Akpabio, the Senate President, and Senator Natasha was going to be nipped in the bud, I know that both families, the Akpabios and the Duagans, have a long-standing relationship.
Yeah.
So I never thought that all of these things would be allowed to snowball to the level at which it has gotten to. I mean, it has left national. It is now gaining international recognition and all of that. And again, for me, it is not too late, for these two families. Let's even leave it. Let's leave the issue of, these two people are public officials. Let's go. Can they not just call themselves into a room without cameras, without anybody else, and say, come, what is really the issue? If not for anything, because of old time's sake, I mean, this is getting out of hand. Really, this is getting out of hand.
Now, people are also referring to the way the matter was handled on the floor of the Inter-Parliamentary Union, saying that they would wait to hear two sides of the story before they take any further actions in it.
That is the way to go, and I really applaud the wisdom, of the wisdom behind that, because one person cannot come, and table a complaint before another person or against another person, and then you expect that you begin to give a verdict without hearing from the other side of the other side. So for me, it is best that you hear from both sides and then possibly give your judgment or whatsoever.
Now, on the vote of confidence, people say that it might be a sponsored attack on the person of the Senate President. His colleagues in the red chambers passed a vote of confidence saying that they are not in any way deterred with looking to change his leadership before the end of his term.
Well, I wish that I wasn't in this thing to begin to attend to some of this type of question. But I don't know why the vote of confidence, though.
Do you think it was badly timed?
Yes, it was. I think it was badly timed, and sincerely, I want to give it so. Let me just reserve my comments for now.
All right, very well then. I think it's best we move on to item 7 on the list, talking about the 2027 general elections. And of course, with talks of coalitions between the People's Democratic Party, Labour Party, the SDP, as well as other opposition parties across the country. We had started touching on it much recently before we moved on to the, talks on vote of confidence on the Senate President, distinguished Senator Akpabio, by members of the Senate. However, ahead of 2027 general polls, what do you think is brewing? Is this a storm? Is this just yet another sham coalition? Is President Bola Tinubu's grandstanding very strong in Nigeria's political space at the moment? What's the situation like?
Well, leave politics for Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu. Even his greatest critic will agree that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu drinks, eats, and sleep politics. I don't doubt, I would never doubt his political sagacity. If, in spite of all of the landmines, political landmines, that were set against him in 2023, if he was able to surmount all of them and emerge president of Nigeria, I sincerely do not see him not being able to survive another if it comes in 2027. But again, that will be dependent on his achievements, in his first 4 years.
Now, Comrade Richard, when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was vying for presidency, the only thing he had to ride on was his performance as former governor of Lagos State. That was mainly his bedrock for contesting for presidency. And as at then, people had not been through all of the things that Nigerians have been through right now. Fast forward 2 years into his administration, there have been a lot of complaints about, one, the anti-people policies that many people have described some of his policies to be. Secondly, there has been allegations of high rate of corruption and fraud within the administration, or fraudulent people within the administration.
The major problem I have with,
Okay.
The major problem I have with the Tinubu administration basically is nepotism.
Nepotism.
Yeah. That is the only problem I have with the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration.
With this issue of nepotism, and of course we know that the northern part of the country is not particularly happy with the president, do you still think he stands a chance ahead of 2027?
Did Buhari stand a chance in 2019 when he seek re-election? Because almost everything that is happening in the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration,
nepotism,
corruption were the hallmark of that administration between 2015 he came on board and 2019. Yet he was re-elected, and even the nepotism of President President Buhari's administration was even more visible.
What do you think fueled that re-election?
Fueled whose re-election?
Muhammadu Buhari's re-election.
What fuels his re-election was the support of his people.
What would fuel President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's re-election?
The support of the Southerners too. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu became president on the heels of, it is the turn of the South.
But he lost Lagos.
Did he lose the South?
He lost Lagos.
Did he lose the South?
Big question.
Well, in closing, one of the drivers of this administration is on some of the people-targeted programs, which people would say would play a role. Yesterday, the minister talked about 6 months free training for IT jobs for 2 million Nigerians to begin in June. This is to complement the students' loan scheme and other initiatives of this government targeted at Nigerians. Do you feel that this might be some pointers that would also give him strong points going into 2027?
Yes, indeed. The president has been very deliberate in terms of bombing his way into the hearts of young people of Nigeria. And these are some of the policies. These have been some of the policies he has brought on board, put in place, and whether you like it or not, these things are having direct impact on these people. And the president has been quite lucky to have a son like Sheyi Tinubu, who has also been going around. The last time I checked, I think he was still in the north, meeting, rubbing minds with fellow young people, trying to get real-time assessment of stuffs, trying to get them to hear what are the people saying, what are we doing right, what are we not doing right, what can we do, to improve on the fortunes of our people and all of that. When you have this kind of a son, you should know that even if every other person wants you to fail, I don't think that your son will want you to fail. So by the time Sheyi sits with his father to say, Daddy, when I went to Borno, this is what I heard. Bauchi, this is what I heard. He gives the father, this is coming from his son. This is not coming from any other person, his son. So you discover that with the likes of Sheyi Tinubu by his father, giving him all of this kind of real-time feedbacks, you get certain things right, especially as it concerns programs and policies that has direct impact on the youth of Nigeria.
All right, Comrade Richard, this is a fine place to leave the conversation, but we must thank you so much for availing yourself for this deliberative conversation on Morning Express.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
for having me.